In 90 seconds, tell us how you plan to serve and work with the business community.
My name is Jesse Carlos. I am an associate market executive with managing the Pacific Northwest region. I am also a teaching fellow at Harvard University. I specialize in teaching business, finance, fintech, cryptocurrency, and corporate finance. The major focus of my candidacy is around two things, and that's public safety and economic development. I really do believe at its core, economic development relies on small business and small business community. You don't have anything, whether that's livable wage, affordable housing, or a community that people are willing to buy in and invest in without a small business community. It's those jobs where people are able to work where they live, enjoy recreational experiences where they are. It's these things that are fundamental to building a community. And I think with my two sticking points, that being public safety and economic development, I think they go hand in hand, where we need to guarantee the safety and security of the people investing in our communities and the people that live here, and then grow that internally so that we have a domestic economy able to support a living wage. When I saw that Victoria Woodards wasn't going to be running again as a candidate, I saw an opportunity for somebody new to step in, and I looked at the candidates that had already stepped up to serve and the city council as a whole, and I saw that there was a lack of diversity of thought. I think with my unique experience being a former Army Ranger sniper, being a Harvard graduate in economics and banker, I thought that I could lend my expertise and my unique perspective to the city council at large and really help us through this time when budgeting and fiscal responsibility really are our main points that we need to work on in the next 4 years.
Hi, I'm Whitney Stevens, and I am running for mayor of Tacoma. I'm running because I truly believe that every child in Tacoma deserves the same opportunities that my kids have had. Our city is at a turning point. We need bold leadership who will advance a collaborative agenda and get things done in the face of federal chaos. I'm that leader. I've spent 20 years behind the scenes working for our local elected leaders, getting things done. I'm a certified public records officer. I've worked in budgets and policy. I've worked for our constituents trying to demystify what our government does. And I have all of that practical experience to put to work as your mayor. My main goals here as mayor locally are police accountability and our community safety, and caring for our children through better access to child care, amongst other initiatives. I bring a collaborative leadership style to everything that I take on. We cannot shy away from hard conversations and difficult decisions. We need to face these things head on by finding common ground and by working to build a bigger table and not fighting over a pie. I am a new, fresh face that has decades of experience, but none of the baggage. And I would intend to put all of these things to work for our business community to advance Tacoma, like I did when I came here to attend UW Tacoma as an outsider who had negative impressions of Tacoma and instead found the biggest small town you'll ever live in.
My name is Steve Haverly. I'm running for mayor of Tacoma, and I've been here my whole life and love this city, and I know we can do better than we've been doing. I've talked about being mayor for 30 years, literally. So I really hope to get the opportunity to serve the city. I wish that we treated our business community as well as we treat developers. We've kind of rolled out the red carpet for developers, and I think we need to do a little bit of red carpet rolling for our businesses in downtown Tacoma. In talking to them, business owners throughout the years, I've found a lot of them feel like doing business in Tacoma is next to impossible, and those are their words, next to impossible. So I'd like to change that. We need to cater to our businesses a lot more than we do. We need to help elevate them, fill in the spaces around them. We've got a 17% vacancy rate in Tacoma. That's not acceptable. So we need to fill these businesses and get people to come down to Tacoma to really fulfill these business dreams that people have in building their businesses here.
Hi everyone, I'm Anders Ibsen, and I'm proud to run for your mayor this year. Tacoma is my lifelong home, and I'm running because I've seen the changes that we've made when are resolved to improve our city. I've also seen the places that we could do a lot better. Traditionally, business, like a lot of other groups, is almost engaged as a checkbox where there's a pre-approved, pre-made decision, and you're just kind of engaged after the fact. And that is a persistent source of frustration for a lot of folks. I'm the only business owner running for the mayor spot. I'm actually the only private employer. And on top of that, I'm the only person who's both served on the city council as well as made executive hires, 2 city managers and the utility director. And part of it is, frankly, who is involved in the decision-making process and how early are you involved in the decision-making process. So something I really want to get the city ahead on and to do a much better job of is to make sure that you're engaged on the front end to help author policies, not just react to them.
Hi, I'm John Hines. I'm running for mayor of the city of Tacoma because I believe we're at an important time in our city where we need leadership. What do you need? What are the gaps you see? Where can we step in and do more? I think a customer service mentality from the city is the most important thing. I like to move us from a no-but city to a yes-and city, where you come in with ideas and we talk about how can we help you achieve them and also do even more. And so as the next mayor, I really want to work to lead with our city manager to really drive our organization to become a yes-and city and really support the business community. We're going to make some decisions in the next 4 years. They're going to shape the next 4 decades in our city. And we need someone who can step in and lead from day one. And I'm that person.
My name is Tony Yen. I'm running for mayor of Tacoma, nonpartisan. And I have been born in Tacoma. My history in terms of business, I have a 30-year corporate executive career, so I understand business very well. I want to be the people's mayor. I've been all over this city, and I have a military background as well. So I took an oath to follow the Constitution, rule of law, and due process. So I'm going to take a bullet for my city. We have to have a better private-public relationship, not only with our small businesses all around the city, but also with the Puyallup tribe. I mean, we got to think outside the box. You know, I'm not going to be myopic. I'm not going to have tunnel vision, you know, because if we don't do that, we've missed all of the ethnic small business owners, and we need them.
Private developers and businesses have spent millions restoring and developing downtown buildings. As mayor, how will you respond with public investment back into downtown and activate neglected public spaces?
I think the biggest reason why a majority of our public spaces are vacant is we're seen as a city that is just as bureaucratic as the city of Seattle, but less safe. When we look at Tacoma as a whole, there's really no business sense why somebody would relocate here as opposed to Bellevue, as opposed to Everett, as opposed to some place that's more safe, even though it's a little bit more expensive. I think the only way that we're going to tackle this is by tackling it in 2 ways. First, public safety, because that's going to lower the insurance costs of people trying to support businesses here, allowing people to move in and develop the vacant real estate that we have in our downtown community, and then also supporting those companies better in a relative sense than any one of our geographic competitors, whether that be Seattle, Bellevue, or Olympia.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and that's that we cannot keep doing the same thing that we have done. I've been involved downtown Tacoma for 15 years, including being president of the Downtown Merchants Association, and I have seen plans and investments come and go. I've seen consultants take big fat checks and leave, and those things not necessarily be followed through on. If I'm elected mayor, I really believe that accountability starts at the top, and we need to be every day bringing fresh-faced perspectives and working with new, renewed focus on what we should be doing in our downtown.
We really have a problem with derelict spaces in downtown Tacoma. There's a lot of buildings that sit vacant for 30 plus years, and with the owners having no intention of ever doing anything with those buildings. That's not a good look for our city. We're trying to attract business from all over the place, especially up north. We've got commuters who sit in traffic on I-5 going to Seattle to make decent money that could be doing it here in Tacoma. And if there's one thing we learned through COVID is that we don't have to commute to the office every day. We definitely don't have to commute to Seattle. We can do it here in Tacoma. We're wired for it, literally. We should make businesses happen in Tacoma so we don't have to commute to earn a good, decent wage.
The question we have to ask is, what is the purpose we want for downtown? And that's something that gets missed. Downtown used to be where all the retail was, and then the mall came and crushed that. And then with remote work, office space, and those types of traditional uses of downtown are less frequent as well. So instead of just reacting and trying to just do the same thing we've always done, we need to, I think, have a more reimagination focus on what can we uniquely bring to the table. I'd also say that there's no such thing as a singular downtown. I think the block around, the so-called Gayborhood around the Mix, or, the Matador area, UWT, these are all very specifically different areas. And back to process and engagement, I'd much rather listen to entrepreneurs and see what's already working and how can we feed those fires versus just, if you build it, they will come. Just try to imagine what folks need. And also just taking advantage of policies that are already there that are low-hanging fruit. So the state legislature passed commercial to residential conversion opportunities. We could take advantage of transfer development rights, more of a focus on transit-oriented development to just get more market rate housing, more foot traffic to sustain businesses, and just all doing so with a greater element of certainty, predictability, and future engagement.
Well, I think when you look out in the community, broader than, say, the city of Tacoma, you look at Federal Way, you look at Lakewood, look at University Place, they are trying to pull out of the ground what we already have, which is a built-out, historic, beautiful downtown. And so this is one of our best assets that we can sell as a city. So I believe the mayor really needs to lean into that. We need to really celebrate and invest in our downtown. So as new businesses are coming in and investing and making the changes we want to see, I think the city should be a partner. I think there's lots of tools, looking at local improvement districts, looking at matching funds, that as business owners come in and make changes, we are coming in and walking alongside and really trying to match those. I don't think the city thinks enough about how we can leverage private investment with our public dollars to really make an impact. And that's something I'd really like to see us do, to be a little bit more entrepreneurial and to really think about how we can partner to get more out of our city and more for our residents, because as people are investing, we want to be there walking right alongside.
There's so many opportunities if you just are a people person, realize the relationships to the business community, to tax sales revenue, which helps businesses. And then we can do it. We can do it. All we have to do is concentrate, focus, have a plan. I would be looking at a 5-year plan, not a 2-year plan for the biennium, not a 2-year plan for the next biennium, but at least a 5-year plan.
Increased taxes and fees and public safety have been a continuous concern to the business community. How will you make sure that the business community has a voice, is heard, and how will you lead the city council in supporting that?
Contrary to everybody that's running for this position, I have a very sound base in financial acumen and business sense. I know how to value a company. I know what a profit and loss statement looks like. And I know what the threshold is for investment or divestment from a certain area. When we write policy and when we actually put these laws into action, somebody needs to be a sounding board, but hey, this is not tenable with the amount of legislation that's already against this specific industry. There's no reason for investment. There's no way that they can proceed to have a business. I think advocating for that as myself and in the role of mayor, I think is going to be fundamental in changing the trajectory of having this place be hard to have a business to something that actually thrives and supports a small business.
Well, public safety is my #1 issue, and police accountability. The status quo is currently making us less safe. We have paid out millions of dollars for police conduct for a pattern of behavior that passes back to pre-pandemic days. And we have not seen substantial change. If we keep electing the same leaders, we will keep getting the same results. As I've said previously, I believe that accountability starts at the top. There are other cities, such as Baltimore, doing tremendous progress on issues like this, and we can do it too here in Tacoma. I bring accountability, I bring trust, and I bring persistence to solving an issue with a very human perspective.
The biggest problem with our finances is irresponsible spending by our city. we need to buckle down, start spending our money more wisely, get back to the essential needs of our city. And that's why we have a $24 million deficit, because our spending is out of control. Now, back when COVID came, we had all this federal money coming in, and it was easy to make that money work for us. But those days are over. We need to get back to fiscal responsibility. We need to make our community safer to attract people downtown, because honestly, people don't feel safe downtown. Every business you come to, you have to knock on the door and be let in, because for fear of people on the streets or crime, there's a problem. And we don't have enough officers to handle all of the crime that Tacoma witnesses. So we need to buckle down with our spending. We need to hire more officers, and we need to clear up the dysfunction between TPD and city government.
For me, it begins and ends with engagement. And when it comes to fees, taxes, and costs, as a business owner, I'm familiar not only with the hard costs of paying employees, paying for marketing, but the other cost we have to consider is opportunity cost. What are we missing by not making a smart investment? And when we have engagement with the public about really crucial matters like how we fund public safety and infrastructure, two measures of which recently failed at the ballot box, that to me is really just a failure of credibility and trust on the city's part. And so these are crucial conversations, because this is literally the role of government, is to keep you safe and to make sure you have livable, functioning communities that allow you to transact, allow you to bring business in and create jobs. But what are we missing? And so everything begins and ends with engagement. And even after the fact, after the ballot measure is passed, or after we've passed an ordinance of some kind, how are we doing in the implementation? And so that to me is just about engagement, but it's also just as much about making sure that we are hiring qualified people who get it, who have a small business background, who have that kind of familiarity. With the upcoming city manager hiring position that the next council is going to be very intimately involved with, that is a wonderful opportunity for engaging the business community to make sure we have that deeply needed perspective baked into how the city departments run day by day.
Well, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, which is not telling the business community what they need, but asking the question and better understanding them. So one thing we did here in my time on the council is the business community really like to see more of an investment in public safety. And in some places, that's more police, that's more fire, that's more responsiveness to what's happening. But I also hear other things. I hear people talk about graffiti, litter and trash, broken sidewalks, broken streetlights. And so I think we need to really lean in and work with our business community to understand what are the gaps in safety. When your customers come in and they say, I don't feel safe here, what are the things we could be doing to try to address it? Yes, that involves police, and we're looking quickly to try to fill out our police force so we have a full police force of officers who can respond. But I'd really like to see us move to more multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary teams where we're taking not only the police department, but code enforcement, public works, environmental services, and having them work together with businesses to understand the problem. So when you call and say, I have an issue with safety, it's not just one part of the organization that shows up and helps, it's every part of the organization, and get you the resources you need.
Well, have an open door policy. I will be in the county city building from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Open door, mainly for the staff, employees, department heads. But the private sector, have them, hey, I'm gonna talk to the mayor. Give me a call. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do together. I'm not all for raising taxes. That's what Ferguson has done to offset his $19 billion deficit. We only got a $24 million deficit. So we got to look ahead to the FIFA World Cup. Bruce Harrell in Seattle, they went through a whole motion, logistics mostly for traffic, 500K people, but $1 billion in revenue. So I won't have to lay off anybody. And then when it gets here, so 1 billion on 50K people, on 500K that's coming in, it's less expensive. We've got more of the hotels, we've got everything we need, we got entertainment, we've got all of that those tourists are gonna, our guests, they'll be our guests. So we gotta treat them right. And I'm looking at some kind of like a trolley or bus system, like in LA, you got a two-tier and go around to the historic landmarks. We have all over the parks, White Parks, Point Defiance Park, the Pagoda, the Chinese this. Koreatown, the Slavics, and the Slavic Church. They're all business owners. So if we look at a coalition, if you want to say, of the ethnic community, I don't care what color you are, as long as you want to do business in Tacoma, I will work with you to see how I can help you, make you profitable, and stay here in Tacoma.
What's your plan to make Tacoma more business-friendly and create real incentives for businesses to stay and grow here?
Again, this is just circling back to the same thing that I said before. We need public safety. People need to be guaranteed that their investments aren't going to be squandered away, and that people that try and steal, people that try and do them hard are held accountable. Like, safety is our #1 concern because insurance rates are ballooning in the city of Tacoma. After that, it's economic development. We're not playing a game of how much tax could we have inside of a city and allow our businesses to grow. We already don't have a place where people are looking at as a first place to go after they move out of Seattle, and we need to change that narrative. We need to build, in relative terms, a better business community than Seattle, a better business community than Bellevue, a better business community than Olympia. That's the only way that we're going to be able to gain traction, where we're not a commuting destination where all of our employees go to Seattle, Bellevue, and Olympia to work, but they come here and work here because the companies will be here.
Childcare is currently one of the biggest drags on our economy nationwide, and it's especially true here in Washington and in Tacoma. We have entire areas of our city without childcare, and the lack of childcare is keeping tremendous amount of workers out of our workforce. And companies want to locate where their employees want to be. Having accessible, affordable childcare improves the ability for companies to recruit, retain, and promote their workers and their workforce. We could potentially increase our GDP in Washington state by nearly 10% just by increasing women's participation in the workforce. Childcare is not just a school issue. Our kids are everyone's responsibility.
Back in the 90s, I worked in downtown Tacoma, and Mayor Ebersol at the time incentivized businesses to come into downtown. All the city-owned buildings, there was cheap rent, but he filled up our city. When I worked on Pacific Avenue, it was thriving. We need to get back to incentivizing people to open businesses, know that they're going to be safe, and know that they're going to be profitable so that they can afford to pay better wages to their employees. I've talked to a lot of business owners, and they feel like doing business in Tacoma is very, very difficult. They don't feel like the city has their back. I know a lot of business owners who've invested their life savings into this city only to be nickel and dimed by the city to get some of that money back. I understand we need money. We need those taxes. I get it. But when someone pours their heart and soul into their city and into their business to build it and to build the businesses around them, we need to do more to make their bottom line go further. We've got to give people reasons to come to downtown Tacoma. You can have all the businesses you want, but if there's no one here to spend their money there, then what's the point? Right now, we have dilapidated parks in our downtown, trees falling down, benches without slats. We've got to take better care of our downtown core to attract people to come down here in the first place. Because we have people who spend so much money on their businesses, but there's no one there to spend the money. That's counterproductive, counteractive.
If I had to sum it up in a single word, I'd say certainty. Certainty is the biggest thing that's lacking, and it's, as a small business owner myself, it's the single biggest thing I'm looking for when not even working with government, but when I choose whom to work with on a business level. It's what kind of a relationship are we going to have long term? And one of these biggest examples that we're finding right now is with the homelessness and affordability crisis. We're going to need to do a great deal of building, a great deal of infusing the community with greater housing stock of all different types. But if you talk to people actually performing those services, actual builders, contractors, for example, it can be very daunting to not know what's needed further down the road, to be told one thing by one department, but then told something completely different by 3 or 4 other departments. And time and delay, besides being a headache, are literally money if you're dealing with financing, construction loans, payroll, what have you, right? And so everything begins and ends with certainty, which is just a subset of engagement and just greater proactiveness. And that has to do with how your elected leaders, like your mayor, treat you and include you. And it also has to do with the level of competency and familiarity that we select when we're hiring a chief executive and the people that they bring along too. And everything comes from that.
First thing is just being open and welcoming to businesses, to admit the fact that we really need you to be here, we need you to be investing here, and just the common sense of if you're investing in our community, we want to be there to support you. I think beyond that, we want to really look at our tax code to try to incentivize people to expand and grow their businesses. We have different tax benefits and breaks that allow, if you add or expand jobs or add new people to your workforce, that you can get a tax break. I'd like to look at those more broadly. I'd also really like to look at, as we see like the city to the north that shall remain unnamed is raising their taxes on their businesses. Is there a way for us to step in and say, hey, Tacoma's open for business. If you don't want to be in that city anymore, you can come to Tacoma and we'll find ways to get you plugged into a community where you can really make a difference. I love this city. It's in many ways a big, small town. But one thing that's really special about it is this is a place where you can make it your own and you really kind of create your own adventure. And it's something I want more people coming to our city that want to do that. And as the mayor, I'm excited to help facilitate that process.
When you think about all of the empty commercial sites, so let's say we get a small business, recruit them to come here. So that first year lease, all right, maybe we could just kind of have an exemption there. But if you say to the small business owner, we just want 10% of your net to come back to the community, I think that'll work. And then the second year and the third year, we go back to the regular tax structure that is currently in place to then keep them here. Not only that, you got to treat them like human beings. They're here to create employment. They're here to just say, hey, I love Tacoma. I want to stay here. As long as you treat people right, you can take the love in, get the hate out, and then we can address all the unprecedented, all the uncertainty that has been created that we have to overcome to be able to have this community tight-knit